When Katie agreed to fill in for her sister as a nanny for just one day, she thought it was just another favor, nothing more. What she didn't know was that the quiet, grieving single father living in the mansion had been watching her from afar, captivated not by beauty, but by the warmth she didn't even know she radiated. And everything was about to change. On a cold winter morning in the quiet suburbs of Seattle, Katie Lane stood at the front door of a magnificent mansion with her heart pounding under her beige coat. Snow covered the fence along the walkway, and her breath formed little clouds as she tucked a strand of blonde hair behind her ear. She had never been to this neighborhood, let alone a mansion like this. This place was far from the storybook world she had drawn with her fingers, but her sister had called in a panic. With a high fever and no means of support, Katie, still grieving the recent loss of her mother, had agreed without a second thought. The door opened with a soft click. A man stood there, tall and broad-shouldered. He wore a dark sweater over a collared shirt, his face sharp and unreadable, his cold gray eyes locked onto hers with a frightening intensity. Before Katie could say anything, a little girl peeked out from behind the man's legs. Her big brown eyes lit up. She gasped. "You look like Ms. Sunshine." Katie blinked, surprised. I'm sorry." The man frowned, but the girl smiled at her. "I remember you," the child continued, stepping forward, her tiny hands waving excitedly. "You are Ms. Sunshine. You sang the brave song." Katie smiled, still unsure. She bent down to the girl's level. "Hi there, sweetheart. I'm Katie. I'm just here for today. Your regular nanny is feeling a bit under the weather." The girl clapped her hands. "But you came anyway." "Daddy, can she stay?" Katie looked up just as the man finally spoke. "Ava, let's go inside," he said, his voice deep but calm. Katie stood up, searching for a sign of welcome on his face. There was nothing, just a slight nod as he stepped aside, holding the door open. "Thank you," Katie said softly and stepped inside. The entrance was wide, the ceilings high, the polished hardwood floors, and the atmosphere suggested that silence was preferred over chatter. Ava stepped forward, mumbling something under her breath. Katie turned slightly toward the man. "So I assume you are Mr. Carter." He nodded again, this time more slowly. "Alex Carter." He did not extend his hand. Katie still tried to smile. "Nice to meet you. I promise I won't cause any trouble. I'm just here to keep Ava company, make lunch, and stay out of your way before dinner." Alex's gaze remained fixed on her face as she stepped inside, not in a predatory way, but as if he were trying to piece her together with a memory he couldn't quite recall. His gaze swept over her shiny blonde hair, her gentle expression, and her slightly anxious posture. He had met her before. Not here, not like this, but from a different angle, a different moment. "Ms. Sunshine," Ava whispered again as she disappeared into the living room, her voice echoing like a ghost down the hallway. Alex was silent, but inside his heart raced faster. No way, not after all this time. It can't be her. Not the woman he saw in the old video from kindergarten, the one who sang to his daughter when she was drowning in sorrow after her mother passed away. He remembered the woman's voice filling the auditorium, soft and steady. The way his daughter stopped crying for the first time in weeks. The way someone, a teacher or an aide, had leaned down beside Ava and whispered something only she could hear. Then, during the parents' group conversation, someone posted a shaky video, just a clip, a warm voice, a blonde woman singing and gently soothing Ava. Nameless, no way to know who she was. He had kept that video, played it when the nights were too long, and now she was standing in his foyer, holding a children's book bag and a puzzle. Katie Lane. She didn't know anything at all, and he didn't know what to do. Speak. Walk past her. Ava knew her routine. Katie nodded. "Of course. Thank you once again." He paused at the stairs, glanced back one last time. She was taking off her coat, hanging it neatly on the hook, humming something to herself. The same tune, the same melody. His jaw tightened. Then he turned away and walked, his shoes echoing down the hallway. Katie exhaled slowly. She was here for one day, just one day. But something told her this wouldn't be normal. Under the gentle rumble of the office lights, Alex Carter sat behind the mahogany desk. The walls around him were lined with books he rarely read anymore. His computer screen lit up with unread emails, but his eyes weren't looking at them. They were fixed on a small silver flash drive sitting next to the keyboard. He reached for it slowly, almost reverently, and plugged it in with a click. A window opened. A video file simply labeled, "Be Brave Today." He clicked on it. The screen flickered, and there it was, 2 years ago. A kindergarten auditorium filled with construction paper stars, hand-drawn posters, and the shy voices of children. The camera, held by a parent who seemed unsteady, scanned the room before focusing on a little girl sitting alone on a bench. Ava, just 4 years old at the time, her curly black hair tucked behind her ears, her hands tightly clasped on her thighs. She looked lost. Then, another figure appeared in the frame. Katie. Her blonde hair was tied loosely back, her walk gentle yet confident. She knelt beside Ava and whispered something that the camera couldn't catch. Ava looked up at her, and a moment later, she nodded. Katie turned back to the room and began to sing in a clear, soft voice. It wasn't a flashy performance. No background music, no applause, just a simple melody. Her voice was gentle and steady as she sang a lullaby about courage, about remembrance, about love that never fades. And then she spoke words that have echoed in Alex's mind ever since. Even when the ones we love are gone, they still live here. Every time we laugh in the videos. Ava leans her head on Katie's shoulder, no longer crying. Alex paused the video. In the many months after Ava's mother passed, she still hadn't received any information. No therapy, no new toys, no bedtime stories. But that day, something changed. Ava came home with a gentle smile and a folded letter tucked in her backpack. A small piece of paper written in friendly, childlike handwriting on pink paper with a drawing of the sun in the corner. Dear Ava, I see your heart is so strong even when you feel like it's about to break. Mommy loves you from up above. Every time you are kind or brave, you shine just like she does with hugs, love, sunshine. No names, no titles, no explanations. Alex had asked the school. They told him she was a temporary teaching intern, named Katie something. She was only there for a few weeks to participate in a college student support program. They didn't have her contact information. She had moved on. That was all they could tell him. But the letter remained in the drawer next to Ava's bed, the video still lying on his desk. And now, 2 years later, the woman who helped his daughter feels like she is in his living room, pouring juice and arranging the puzzle pieces. He exhales slowly, rubbing his hand over his face. He has recognized her immediately. Still that same hair, still those warm eyes. The words Ava said that morning were not random. She knew. Children never forget those who held them when they were hurt. Alex rewinds the video once more, watching Katie smile, watching Ava lean towards her. She doesn't know who he is, doesn't know what she did, and now fate has brought her back without any invitation. He thinks about going to see her and saying, "You changed everything for my daughter," but something inside him hesitates. First, he wants to know one thing he doesn't know how to ask. If she could reach out to his daughter in the darkness, could she do the same for him? Not because of the memories, not because of a letter, but because of who she is now. He turns off the video, and from the living room, Katie's gentle laughter echoes down the hallway, deep, real, and healing. The morning sun had risen higher, casting golden rays through the large windows of the Carter estate, but the air inside remained still, as if the house had long forgotten how to echo laughter. Katie gently moved through the vast space, paying attention to the details that seemed too perfect. The pristine white furniture, the framed modern artwork, without clutter or warmth. It was a beautiful house, but not a home. But just as she stepped into the playroom, everything changed. Ava was there, sitting cross-legged on the rug like a cloud, a stuffed bunny tucked under one arm. The little girl looked up, her big eyes curious but unafraid. Katie knelt down to the child's level. "Hello again," she said with a smile, her voice soft as snow. "Would you like to build something today, or shall we make up a story?" Ava hesitated and then nodded shyly. Katie felt delighted. She glanced around and saw a small basket of picture books. An idea sparkled in her mind. She picked a few and sat down next to Ava. What if we created a story that no one has ever heard before? A story just for you and me. Ava's eyes lit up. Let's see. Katie pondered and tapped her chin. Once upon a time, in a kingdom hidden among the clouds and stars, there was a tiny, brave princess named Leia. Lila, Ava repeated, her voice almost a whisper. That's right. And Princess Leia had the most beautiful mother in the world. Her mother's name was Claire. Ava held her breath. That's her mother's name. Katie didn't know. She had no idea at all. But at first, Ava nodded slowly, then nodded faster this time. Katie continued that she had long hair like sunlight, and she often sang to Princess Leia when the stars appeared. One day, her mother had to go on a long journey and left something behind. Do you want to guess what it was? Ava leaned in closer. What Katie whispered. Laughing, she hid it in the wind. And every time the wind gently touched the princess's cheek, she knew her mother was saying hello. For a moment, the room became silent. Then Ava giggled, a sound so full, so sudden, so innocent that even Katie had to startle. Ava laughed again, hugging her bunny tightly, her small shoulders trembling. At the end of the hallway, Alex stood out of sight and watched. The sound struck him like lightning. It had been so long, maybe too long, since he had heard his daughter laugh like that. Not a polite laugh, not a reaction, but a true laugh. A laugh bursting from her belly and lighting up her whole face. He leaned against the wall, arms clutching his chest. Who is this woman? Katie sat with Ava for hours. They built castles from cushions, creating a kingdom with colored pencils, and danced to the old music that Katie found on the family's Bluetooth speaker. She made silly voices with Ava, braided hair, and listened. Really braiding hair and listening. Really listening when Ava speaks half-hearted words about the stars, about her little rabbit, about her mother. By the end of the afternoon, the house felt different. It seemed to breathe again. Ava ran down the hallway, the girl's bunny soaring through the air, its feet lightly touching the hardwood floor. And Katie, although exhausted, felt much fuller than she had weeks ago. As the sun began to set and painted the sky with streaks of orange, Katie helped Ava put on her pajamas and read the final story by the little girl's bed. The girl's eyes fluttered with sleepiness. Alex appeared at the door, then fell silent as usual. Katie stood there tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. All right, she said softly. I guess I have to go now. I hope she sleeps well. But before she could turn back, Ava sat up and reached out to her. Can you come again tomorrow? The little girl asked, wrapping her arms tightly around Katie's waist. Katie hesitated, surprised. Her throat tightened. She began to say, then looked at Alex. He responded to her gaze. But it wasn't the cold, assessing look he had given her this morning. It was something else. Deeper. He nodded slowly as if giving permission, or perhaps silently pleading. And at that moment, Katie felt it. The silence was more impactful than words. The unspoken awareness that something had changed today. That something was important. And perhaps this was just the beginning. Alex stood at the threshold, watching Katie bend down beside Ava, helping the little girl press a cookie cutter into the rolled-out dough. Laughter echoed from the kitchen, like sunlight streaming through the slightly open window. It had been a while since he had heard that sound in his home, since long ago. When Katie first arrived, people thought it was just a day. But when his assistant mentioned that Katie's sister was still ill, Alex made the decision that very night. After putting Ava to bed, he approached her. I want to hire you, he said simply. Katie blinked. Just until my sister recovers. Alex nodded. A temporary nanny. Just recovering. Alex nodded. A temporary nanny. Just for a few days. Of course, we will pay you fairly. She hesitated. I'm not sure. Actually, I am a preschool teacher. Right now, I'm just on leave because my mother passed away recently. His expression softened. I'm very sorry for your loss. She smiled gently. Thank you. There's no pressure, he added. But Ava, she really likes you. That's the truth. Within 24 hours, Ava had latched onto Katie like a lifeline. Katie read her stories in a silly voice, helping her find constellations from the window at night, and even made her laugh out loud, a sound that Alex hadn't heard in months. So Katie stayed. What began as a day turned into 3, then 5. Every morning, the house felt a little warmer. Katie made star-shaped pancakes. She taught Ava how to write thank you cards and fold paper boats for bath time. In the evenings, she would hum while folding laundry or sit on the floor painting with Ava. The house no longer felt like a monument to grief. It felt alive. Alex began to look forward to the mornings again. The way Katie smiled when she handed him coffee. The way she gently corrected Ava's spelling without making her feel small. She wasn't just filling a void. She was changing something. One night, after Ava had fallen asleep, Katie stayed in the little reading nook in the hallway, watching the child breathe slowly, a storybook still resting on her lap. Alex quietly approached, holding a folded piece of paper in his hand. "Katie." She turned, whispering. "Finally." "She's asleep." He nodded, then handed her the paper. "I wanted to ask you something." She took the letter. It was worn, folded hundreds of times. Her eyes skimmed over the familiar handwriting, and she held her breath. "This," she began softly. "Is this yours?" he asked. Katie nodded slowly. 2 years ago, when I was just a teaching intern, Ava sat alone during nap time and cried. I didn't know her name. No one told me, but I couldn't leave her like that. I wrote these lines and tucked them into her backpack. She traced each word with the little girl's backpack. The girl traced each letter with her finger. "You are so brave, and even when someone we love has passed away, they are still forever in our hearts. Every time we smile, every time we remember, love does not fade away. It just changes form." Katie looked up. I never thought there would be someone who would hold it. Alex's voice was calm. It held us back. There was a long silence. "I didn't even sign my real name." She said, "I just wrote as Miss Sunshine. That's how the kids usually call me." "I know," he replied. I watched a video that another parent posted from that day. "You're helping Ava talk about her mother." I have watched that clip so many times I lost count. Katie's eyes were filled with tears. "I never knew you changed her," Alex said, his voice hoarse. "You changed me." Katie folded the letter and hugged it tightly to her chest. "It's just a letter." Alex shook his head. "No, it's the beginning of everything." She smiled through her tears, a smile that came from being seen, truly being seen for something you never expected to be important. That night, when Katie stood under the soft hallway light, holding the letter she once wrote for a grieving child, Alex looked at her not as a guest or a caretaker, but as the woman who accidentally walked into his life years ago and was now standing in his house, changing everything once again. The days began to blend together in the most pleasant way. Mornings started with the soft footsteps of Ava entering the kitchen and Katie humming as she flipped pancakes. Afternoons were filled with books, laughter, and quiet learning moments on the sun-drenched porch. Evenings slowed down, gentle as the sky turned to indigo, and Katie read stories to Ava. Both of them nestled into the corner of the couch. Alex watched everything from the edge of the sofa, quietly absorbing. Katie had a way of weaving herself into their lives without demanding space. She belonged to them without trying. The way she looked at Ava when she smiled, the way she instinctively placed his second cup of coffee next to him, the way he liked it. No, next to him the way he likes. No ice cream, 2 sugar cubes, the way she fills the silence with peace, not noise. There are moments, brief but undeniable, when their eyes meet across the room and something unspoken hangs in the air. The air. Not exactly love. Not yet. But it was something tender. Something real. One Thursday evening, the winter wind slammed against the window. Ava came down with a fever. It started with rosy cheeks and soft whimpers, followed by chills and a dazed look in her eyes. Katie noticed it first. She gently pressed her palm against the child's forehead, worry etched across her face. "I think she's burning up," Katie whispered. Without hesitation, she held Ava close. "I will stay with her tonight." Alex stood at the door, uncertain, anxious. "Are you sure you don't need to do that?" "I want to," Katie gently interrupted. "She needs someone close." For the next 8 hours, Katie never left Ava's side. She placed a damp cloth on her forehead, read softly between short naps, and sat awake in the stillness of the night, listening to Ava's slow breathing. The little girl wasn't sleeping. She didn't complain. She simply stayed. At 3:15 a.m., as Katie leaned against the headboard with Ava's head on her lap, she noticed a small tray by the door. A warm cup of ginger tea sat there next to a folded piece of paper. She picked it up, her eyes already wet before opening the note. "You stayed for her. Thank you. No signature. No name." She hugged the note to her chest and closed her eyes. 1,000 emotions flooded through her. The next morning, Ava's fever had passed. Her soft voice returned. Hoarse but cheerful, Katie helped her brush her hair, tying it back with a blue ribbon, and made her a light breakfast. Alex sat with them at the table, quiet and thoughtful. That afternoon, Katie sat alone in the backyard, watching the trees sway and feeling a strange, distant pain of something beautiful beginning. Her phone rang. A message. "Ms. Lane, we would love for you to come back. A full-time kindergarten teacher position has opened up at Lakeside Elementary School. Please let us know by Monday." She stared at the screen. A job offer, an opportunity to return to what she loved, a stable career, a fresh start. So why did her stomach feel? Why does the image of Ava's sleepy eyes, the quiet presence of Alex, and the laughter in the kitchen make her hesitate? This house has become like a family, like a home that she didn't know she was missing. But is it real, or is she just filling the void left by others? Katie slowly stepped inside, decision gnawing at her. She passed by the framed letter that Alex hung near the front hallway, the letter she once wrote to a girl whose name she didn't know. Now, she couldn't imagine her days without that girl's smile. The weight of choice bore down on her, to stay and recklessly wish for more than she was allowed to hope for, or to leave before it became too painful. She stood there suspended between everything she had ever known and everything she never expected to find. And in the stillness of that late afternoon, a truth rang clear. This was no longer just a job, and Katie's heart was no longer her own. Katie stood by the window, her fingers tracing the rim of her warm teacup. Outside, the snow began to fall again, soft and silent, blanketing the world. The house behind her was quiet, too quiet. She had made her decision. That morning, she sat down with Alex at the long kitchen table. Ava was still sleeping upstairs, the fever completely gone. Her dreams were peaceful. Katie clasped her thighs, her eyes downcast to the floor. "I got the offer," she said gently. "The teaching job." Alex looked at her, something unreadable flickering in his eyes. "And I will accept it." There was a long pause. Alex exhaled slowly, his jaw clenched. "Is that what you want?" he asked in a calm voice. Too calm. Katie nodded, though her heart pounded painfully in her chest. "It's what I have to do. Teaching is where I belong." She couldn't look at him. "I understand," he said, still calm, still quiet, but the pain underlying his words loomed like a shadow. Finally, she looked up at him. "This is never to be considered permanent. I'm just filling in for my sister. I never intended to stay." Alex leaned back in his chair, arms crossed tightly over his chest. "Katie, you were never temporary." She held her breath. "But I know I don't get to decide that," he added gently. Katie stood there trying to speak through the lump rising in her throat. "You and Ava, you both are amazing. This house these days means more to me than I can express." He also stood up, looking at her for a long moment, as if trying to memorize her face. "Then why leave?" She blinked, her eyes brimming with tears. "Because I'm not her. I'm not Ava's mother. I'm not your wife. I'm just a passerby." He said, "You were never anything at all." But those words came too late. Katie stepped back, grabbed her bag, and walked out of the kitchen before her resolve could crumble. That night, she quietly packed her things. Her sister came to take her place, and they exchanged tight hugs. Katie smiled as she said goodbye, kissing Ava's forehead one last time and whispering a promise to write. Then she left. The snow fell thicker, muffling her footsteps as she walked toward the gate. Her taxi was waiting at the curb. She climbed in, not wanting to look back at the house that no longer felt like home to anyone else. Just as the driver reached for the ignition, a voice called out, "Wait!" Ava's nanny, now back and recovering, ran to the taxi, holding a small brown box. "Mr. Carter wanted to give this to you," she said, pressing it into Katie's hands. Katie opened it in the back seat as the taxi pulled away. Inside was only one item, a delicate wooden frame. Behind the glass was a letter, the very letter she had written many years ago on that long-forgotten day. Her words, still simple, still warm like a child, looked back at her in her own handwriting. "Even when those we love are gone, they live here every time we smile." And beneath it was a new line. Alex wrote elegantly for the woman who changed 2 lives with just a few kind words. Katie held the frame tightly to her chest, tears silently rolling down her cheeks. The snow continued to fall, the world outside the window becoming hazy. She stared at her handwriting, her heart aching in places she didn't know existed. She had left to protect herself. But what if leaving is what broke her? Katie walked down the familiar hallway of her new classroom, her heels gently tapping against the window glass. The children laughed. Crayons were scattered across the desks, tiny voices whispering stories and secrets. She smiled as always, but that smile never reached her eyes. Each day she poured her heart into her work. She guided the story gracefully, gently wiping away tears, encouraging tiny hands to be brave and curious. But in the quiet moments during lunch breaks, or when the bell rang and the room was empty, she felt it, the pain, the absence. It wasn't the job she loved. The silence was supposed to echo Ava's laughter. It was the cup of coffee she poured in the morning without seeing Alex's tired smile on the other side of the kitchen. It was the cold edge of the pillow that used to be warmed by connection, not loneliness. She missed them. She missed him. Then one Thursday afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the tall windows, her school secretary appeared at the door with a small package in hand. "This is for you," she said. Katie's name was written unevenly in colored pencil on the front. She sat at her desk, heart pounding as she carefully tore open the brown paper. Inside was a hand-crafted book, thick cover paper tied with ribbon, glitter in the corners, and stickers of stars, bears, and rainbows scattered throughout. The first page had a drawing, Ava holding Katie's hand. Above it was the title, "Me and Ms. Sunshine." Katie gasped softly. Each page was a memory. Ava brushed off the cookie dough dust on Katie's nose. Ava slept on Katie's lap with an open book in the middle. Ava laughed in the snow while Alex stood watching, smiling, his eyes always on Katie. The last page was very simple, a heart drawn in red-colored pencil and a message written in Ava's unmistakable messy handwriting. "Come home, Ms. Sunshine." Katie pressed her hand to her chest, her throat tightening. She reached for her phone and dialed. 1 ring, 2 rings, still no answer. Her hand trembled as she tried again. Nothing. She stood up so quickly that her chair fell back. "I have to go," she told the secretary while grabbing her coat. "Family matters. Is everything okay?" The woman called after her. Katie didn't respond. Outside, the wind had picked up. The air smelled like snow. She waved down a taxi, climbed in, and gave the address she had once entered into a rideshare app without knowing it would change her life. The ride felt long. Her fingers clutched the book on her lap as if it could vanish. Her mind was flooded with questions, doubts, and a hope that could not be extinguished. When the taxi finally stopped in front of the iron gate, the sky had turned lavender. The lights were on in the windows, her breath quickening. She paid the driver, stepped onto the path, and walked to the front door. She hesitated and then knocked. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the door opened. Warm light flooded the porch, and he appeared there. Alex stood shyly in the doorway, his sweater sleeves rolled up to his elbows, his expression unreadable. But his eyes, those serious gray eyes, softened the moment they saw her. "Katie," he sighed, like a prayer. She didn't say anything. She couldn't. Then a small voice came from behind him. "Ms. Sunshine." Ava rushed forward, jumping into Katie's arms before anyone could stop her. Katie knelt down, embracing the child, her tears soaking into the girl's jacket. Alex stepped closer, looking hesitant. Katie looked up. Her voice trembled. "I got your book." He nodded. "We did it together." Every night before going to bed, she would ask if he was coming back. She blinked, trying to steady her heartbeat. And do you wonder? Alex exhaled slowly. Every day she stood there, Ava still holding her hand tightly. Alex reached into his pocket and pulled out a letter. Not a ring, not a grand gesture, just a carefully folded piece of paper. He handed it to her. This time it's from me. Katie opened it, her hands trembling. Will you stay? Not just for her, but for me too. She looked up, tears in her eyes, and nodded. As Katie stepped out of the car, the sky had turned to night. The familiar iron gate appeared before her, now softened by the amber light from the windows across the way. The villa bathed in golden light, wrapped in the stillness of winter, like a dream suspended in time. She walked slowly along the path, her breath misting in the cold air. Her fingers clutched the photo book tighter with every step. The silence of the neighborhood wrapped around her like a question. Did he still want her here? She had reached the door. Before she could raise her hand to knock, the door swung open. A gentle warmth flowed in from the entrance. The scent of cinnamon and old wood lingered. Kitty blinked, startled. Inside, Alex sat on the living room floor, holding a book. Ava curled up next to him, her head resting on his chest. He was reading, his voice soft, steady, and soothing. When his gaze met Katie's, the words on the page stopped mid-sentence. He stood up. "Katie," he said, breathless like a thread caught on something fragile. She stepped inside, hesitating at the threshold. Ava looked up, her little face beaming with joy. "Ms. Sunshine," she shouted and wobbled to stand up. Just as Katie knelt down, Ava rushed into her arms and hugged her tightly. "I knew you would come back." Katie kissed the top of her head. "I miss you, my dear, so much." When she looked up again, Alex was still staring at her, still stunned, still waiting. He slowly walked towards them, something incomprehensible appearing on his face, a mix of relief, hesitation, fear, and hope. "I think maybe this letter is a bit much," he murmured, "or it's not enough." Katie shakes her head. "It's everything." He reaches into his sweater pocket and pulls out another folded piece of paper. "This isn't from Ava. It's from him. I was going to give you this if you came back," he says, "but I wrote it whether you write back or not." He hands it to her. Katie slowly unfolds it. "Dear Sunshine, you are not just a babysitter, a guest, or a temporary answer. From the moment I saw you looking at Ava as if she were the most important story you ever read, I knew you had returned my daughter's smile. You gave me something I thought I had lost long ago, a reason to believe in new beginnings. So now I am writing my own story. This is not a proposal. There is no ring. Not yet. Just a question. Will you stay? Not just for her, but for me too. Yours if you want us. Alex." Katie's hands tremble as she holds the letter to her chest. She looks up through her tears, her voice almost a whisper. "Yes." Alex steps closer, his eyes filled with intensity and tenderness. "Are you sure?" She nods, smiling through her tears. "I've never been more sure about anything than this." He kneels on one knee, not with a ring, but with both hands open, holding nothing but hope. And Ava, still clinging to Katie's arm, looks between them and giggles. "Does this mean you will stay forever?" Katie wraps one arm around her and the other around Alex, pulling them both close. "If you want me to." All three stand in the golden silence, the warmth of the home enveloping them. No longer strangers, no more broken pieces, searching for a place, a family, not born of blood, but of kindness, of letters, of love in its simplest form. The unsigned letter led to the only signature that matters now, a silent promise between them. Forever. This story reminds us that sometimes the most unexpected moments lead to the most transformative connections. Katie stepped in for her sister with nothing but courage and compassion, unaware that her simple act would change her life and the life of a grieving father forever. Through her vulnerability, resilience, and quiet strength, she showed us that love often finds us not when we're seeking it, but when we're simply showing up for others. If you felt moved by Katie's journey, let's show her our support in the comments below. What do you think her next step should be? Should she fully open her heart to the possibility of love and family again? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be shared, don't forget to subscribe to Touching Tales Hub. Every like, comment, and subscription helps us continue telling these heartwarming stories that remind us of the goodness still alive in the world. Let's keep spreading hope one story at a time.